Hi, this is Dr. Vince Spallanzzi. I want to welcome you to our course on lifestyle congruency. We've put this course together. It's available on recklesshealth.com, or you can go to the austinwellnessclinic.com and find out more about me. We're doing an online course on living a lifestyle that's congruent. And one of the subjects in the course is oxygen. You don't often think about this, but oxygen in a sense is a limiting nutrient. It's an important nutrient. It's something that the body requires. And you think, well, there's oxygen in the air. It should be available. Why would anybody have a deficiency in it? But many researchers have talked about this concept. Dr. Jeffrey Bland was one of them. And it's the situation where people are actually getting to a point where they're not getting enough oxygen in their tissues. For example, sleep apnea. People are not breathing during the night. They have points in time when they stop breathing. Sometimes for the entire night, they're having long periods when they don't breathe. They're not delivering oxygen to their tissues because they're not breathing. And now oxygen becomes a critical thing. If you're not oxygenating tissues, if you're not getting oxygen to your body, you're going to end up not functioning well. You're going to create disease. You're going to create a situation where tissues may even die. But your metabolism, your physiology, your body can't function. Your systems can't function if you're lacking oxygen. And again, sleep apnea often is something that you can, of course, use a CPAP machine or some other mechanism to deliver more oxygen, that the CPAP or just wearing oxygen at night. But most of the time, in fact, in my experience all the time, if we get somebody doing a little bit of exercise so there's better tone in their respiratory airways, if we get them to decrease inflammation, which is an important concept throughout all these classes, if we just decrease inflammation, the swelling in the tissue goes down, and the throat and the airways don't tend to close as much. And then, of course, we all know that losing a bit of weight can help with sleep apnea. But sleep apnea is very prevalent. A lot of sleep studies are done, and they often will find that people are stopping their breathing at night, and oxygen is not being delivered. So now it is a limiting nutrient. It's not being delivered in the right amount. You become deficient in oxygen. Another very common way people create an oxygen deficiency is when they eat too much sugar. If you have diabetes, or even if, let's say, your fasting blood sugar has been running a bit high, which is very common, of course. People are eating a lot of sugar, their blood sugars are going higher. Current standard for looking at diabetes is called hemoglobin A1C, and this is literally a measure of how much sugar has reacted with your hemoglobin. Well, hemoglobin is what's in the red blood cell to attach and carry oxygen to tissues. So if I react my hemoglobin with sugar because my blood sugar level has been too high, I'm going to decrease my ability to carry oxygen to my tissues. And again, now I'm deficient in oxygen. Again, I have a limiting nutrient. I have a nutrient that I need. It's necessary. We all know we need oxygen from the air just to have our metabolism run. That's what we're designed to do. And if I have had blood sugars that are running too high and I'm glycating tissues, I'm also decreasing my ability to deliver oxygen to the hemoglobin, and I'm damaging tissues at the same time. Another thing that happens is people's blood pressure can get way too low. If your blood pressure tends to vary quite a bit, it can actually get to such a low point that you're not delivering tissue. We worry about high blood pressure, but just as serious is a situation of low blood pressure where the blood is not perfusing the tissues, the oxygen is not getting delivered, and again, you're deficient in oxygen, you're going to suffer problems. We'll talk more in the future about all the problems that oxygen starvation can lead to. But low blood pressure can be a problem. High blood pressure as well. If you have hypertension, if you're not able to keep the resiliency of your blood vessels because of inflammation, you're creating a situation where you're going to be oxygen deprived. You're creating a situation where you're going to end up with oxygen being a limiting nutrient, because even though it's available out there in the air, you're not getting it in through your lungs to the tissues because you've got blood pressure problems. And understand that blood pressure is not an aging thing necessarily. It's not necessarily even a genetic thing. Most of hypertension or high blood pressure comes from inflammation. It comes from a situation where your lifestyle has been lived in a way that you're not getting certain important nutrients, you're not controlling inflammation in the body, and you actually end up not being able to control your blood pressure either, because you've got this situation of hardening the arteries and arteriosclerosis and other problems that are occurring because of your lifestyle. because the nutrients haven't been there, because inflammation is high, because you're not exercising. Again, it keeps coming back to the same scenario. It's not about finding a doctor to prescribe you the antihypertensive pill. You want to do that if you've got hypertension so you don't stroke or have other problems, but you've got to reduce the inflammation. So a high blood pressure, low blood pressure, you can end up with an oxygen delivery problem. Now also, if you're pretty sedentary, you're not breathing, you're not filling your lungs. There are entire colleges of breathing in India. They teach people how to breathe. And when I speak to an audience, when we have classes in the clinic or I'm out speaking, I'll often watch people, and I see very few people really taking nice, plentiful breaths. What most people do is breathe just enough so that they can stay alive. Now, sustaining life doesn't take a lot of oxygen. You're not perfusing your tissues very well. You're really not delivering a lot of oxygen. You're just kind of keeping enough for the brain to stay up. So, in many ways, if you're not living a lifestyle, if you're not doing things in your life that are going to create health, you're going to have a deficiency in oxygen that you can correct. But while that deficiency is there, you're going to have sickness, you're going to have disease, you're going to have problems. And you're even going to cause tissue death and perhaps your own accelerated death. It's better to live a life of health and wellness than to live a life in disease. And oxygen starvation is going to live a life of, a person with oxygen starvation is going to create a life of disease. So, we've got our course. We're going to have an entire class on oxygen deprivation and the starvation of oxygen. Remember that oxygen is a limiting nutrient, just like any other nutrient, whether it's a vitamin or a mineral, whatever. You need all the nutrients, and it's important to live a congruent lifestyle. So this is an introductory video. If you're interested in the class, please visit www.recklesshealth.com. We've also got a book coming out. It's called Health Recklessly Abandoned. Look for that. This is Dr. Vince Spilonzi. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. We'll see you in class.